welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Turn the Page. I'm your host today, Jenn, and today I am joined by an absolute gallery of extraordinarily talented people who have done really, really incredible things as individuals and now as a team as well. And I am so excited and honored for this interview. So welcome to the show. Could I ask you to introduce yourselves and the book that you're here to discuss today?
I'll go first, I guess.
Yeah.
There was a gap in space, and I have to fill gaps in space for my anxiety. My name is Joe Trohman, and most people know me for the band Fall Out Boy, but I also helped write this comic called Rifters. And hey, guys, talk about yourselves.
I'm Brian Posehn. I run the Fall Out Boy fan club, and I'm
I laugh because it just makes me giddy.
The charter member, and I started the whole thing out at this very office. I'm Joe Trohman's biggest fan, and it was my dream to write Rifters with him. And then we got blessed with a talented artist who is about to introduce himself. Take it away.
My name's Chris Johnson. I was catfished by Brian Posehn because I thought I was going to meet Joe Trohman, and it all worked out beautifully.
Nice.
I didn't write this material. Improv. Good job, guys.
Congratulations. And
Brian's a professional, so.
Sometimes.
It is, as I said, so nice to meet all of you and to discuss this book, which is an absolute blast. I had such a good time reading it. It is so funny, so clever in how it uses time travel and, thinks about what its consequences would be when in the hands of deeply stupid and selfish people. But before we get to the book itself too much, could you talk a little bit more about how the collaboration came about and how it functioned? Before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about how it came around. You were writing together as a pod during COVID. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, Joe and I had a show in development, I believe, right? Weren't we? You and I were already writing together on a regular basis.
Yeah, we had a show in development at a network that we don't need to say for like 5 years or something.
Yeah. It was a long development process, and we had time to talk about other things. So we've written a couple of things together. We had done a thing for Heavy Metal Magazine called Axe with a buddy of ours, Scott Koblish, and we were talking about what to do next, I believe. And I think I don't want to take credit, but I feel like I had the name. Did I already have the name Rifters?
No, you can take. I don't know. I won't say yes. I'll give you the credit. I know you had the credit for the idea.
Yeah, I don't know if I had Rifters right away, but I had the idea of messing around with time travel. I knew Joe would like the idea, and to take police procedurals. That was the main gist of it, was like to take all the Dick Wolf shows that I was watching.
We're both big.
COVID.
We're both.
And I knew Joe was too. So
we're big dickheads. So
yeah, we're total dickheads. Or I prefer wolf heads, but all right, either works. But our love of Dick Wolf and taking like the movie Time Cop to me has a place in my heart and always will, but it is such a flawed movie. It's hard for me to completely love that. And I wanted to get like smart, funny brain take on Time Cop and do it the way I would like to do it, and throw it in, make it in the like SVU type thing, but with time cops. And went to Joe with it, and he liked it right away, and we riffed on it and kind of built the world and got an artist, and he gave us notes. So then we said, let's get another artist. And then
we got really lucky finding
a buddy of mine, Derek Hughes, who's one of is it Berlanti? How do you say? He's one of the DC TV guys. So he's written the Green Arrow show. I know he's worked on Flash and a couple other, and I've known him for years.
Quantum
And,
Leap. He was the EP on Quantum Leap.
And I reached out to him and said, "Hey, buddy, I'm looking for a new artist, somebody I haven't heard of, but somebody who wants to work on a funny thing, and they got to be able to do action and also good storytelling, but then also get comedy, and that's a big ask." And he goes, "Oh, we both went to the same comic book store at the time." He goes, "The Sunday guy at Earth 2, ask Chris." And I knew who he was talking about, and then we made the connection.
Oh, very cool.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, the art goes perfectly with the script, and like I really am glad that you mentioned both comedy and action, because I feel like the writing is so funny and on point, but like the facial expressions that you draw, Chris, like really sell it sometimes, both like the people saying the things and how they're being received. So yeah, like just really, really great.
Thanks.
I learned in Deadpool that that's so important to have somebody who gets the comedy part of it too, and not everybody does. So, and I'm so happy that Chris
we got very lucky there. And then I think, I'm not, Mr. Comic book expert, but what I think people don't know is, you like write an art script and you send it to the artist, and then they do, they sketch out some panels. You go, yep, I like where you're going with it. And then they give you the inks. And, an awesome artist like Chris, I always say, or we always say, do what makes sense. If you need to smash panels together to make a new panel, interpret it. You're the artist, you're doing the heavy lifting. So when he sends us something back, he'll send us some facial expressions that are in a great way different than what we intended, and it makes it so much more fun to edit the script from there, which is the most fun part of writing. But again, Chris did most of the work on this book.
Yeah, adding jokes on that second or third pass is always fun. But yeah. One of my favorite parts of writing comics, honestly, is seeing the art. Like, it's as somebody who is creative up here, but I've never been able to draw myself as well as I'd like, to get like those pages, to the layouts, and just the way it pops, and the dumb stuff that we had in our head coming on seeing it on a page come to life. It's one of my favorite feelings. It's like in anything, but like in sketch writing, when you actually get a piece up on its feet, and you get talented performers saying your dumb stuff out loud. It's a really cool feeling, and it's the same kind of feeling,
and tons of gratitude as well to Chris for doing that hard work to make it more fun for us. There was a really good John Swartzwelder, like the mythical Simpsons writer, did an interview in the I think it was New York Magazine during COVID. He like never did interviews, and people always wanted to hear from him. And he talked about he would write a Simpsons script. He'd write the worst script. He'd just bang it out, just like push it out like a pregnancy. Get the to really get it out. And then he would come back to the office the next day, and he said it was like a shitty script elf did the hard work for him, so he could go and have the fun. And it's like with working on a comic with somebody like Chris. Chris, you should talk eventually, so we don't talk for you. It's like better than that, because you kind of get this like almost finished. It's like somebody like it's like you write a TV show, someone films it, and you get to see all of it, and then you get to edit the dialogue later. It's like just up there, It's incredible. But Chris, I mean, I don't know, man. We're doing all the time.
If you don't always work in comics, you don't understand how unique this one kind of came together, because I got a glimpse, like, it was so much fun to have interactions, and to like, there weren't a ton of notes, but when there were, if you got notes, that was going to be a fun day. Like, there was just being able to these guys created an environment that's very easy to work, and it's very easy to speak your mind and collaborate. I didn't feel like I was a stenographer. And sometimes there's jobs that are like that. And it's not even a slam on those things, but you're not going to have as much fun. Here's the thing. It didn't I don't know if I'm ever gonna have as much fun drawing a comic book as I did on this. There's just stuff in here you don't see everywhere else, and we got to just goof around and kind of one up each other, like, hey, this is funny, and then Brian would throw something on top of it, and then me and Brian like giggle, and then like Joe would be in China, and then he chimes in, makes it 5 times funnier, and like I think there's a lot about this project that's just so unique. It's like kind of for me personally like this really unique romance that lasted this great summer because it's like that same part of this whole magical time in my life where like I like married my wife and we had a baby and we made rifters and we had so much fun making rifters and it was like it really is a lot of fun and I'm not a particularly funny person like I'm not goofy.
Not true.
I'm like everybody knows me as like a grump really. So it was nice to be silly and to let loose, you know? And really just all of it's just so much fun. It was so much fun and like I'm constantly learning the entire time because really before Rifters, I had, I was a guy that got hired to like put out fires, like, hey, we need, 5 pages by Monday, and I would do it because that's work, which sucks because I took forever to draw Rifters, and but it was like this learning curve, this steep learning curve, not just on the art side of comics, but also like I'm watching these guys collaborate and how these ideas come together from, our goofy conversations through Zoom or in town because we are all drive like within like a half hour of each other. So that's also a unique aspect of what we got to do of just like the fact that like I really do like I know these dudes and like you don't get that on a lot of projects. Like there's people that you're happy to see at conventions. There's people that you're happy to hear from. You get an email at Christmas or something, but like it's not weird when Brian hits me up to go get lunch, or me and Joe find
A
ourselves
little weird.
like the weirdest conversation about whatever at any given time. So it's like I'm so grateful for this opportunity and the education that it came with it. The final project's so great and really like as not funny as I am, our colorist is hilarious. Mark Englert did some really funny stuff in here and really just kind of got it. Joe Sabino, our letter, also really great guy.
So fast too, like turnaround.
Yeah,
Like everyone just is a great team. It's
yeah.
everyone pulled their weight. Some more than others. Yeah.
I mean that's comics though.
Comics.
There's no way for everybody to go 33, 33,
But I
30.
think it's like good for people to know. I think like when I was working, Brian and I both actually worked on two different books of Rick Remender. And we worked with the book Rick and I did. We worked with this amazing artist Roland Bashi, and every time he would send us pages, we're like, well, he's like the new Frank Miller. He's incredible. He's the like he is the comic in a way, and the artist just does carry the bulk of the weight. Because I mean, when you're reading a comic, yes, you're reading. The dialogue is important. The stories, all that's
Yeah.
important. But like, you're not gonna want to read a book that isn't beautiful necessarily. Maybe if it's like a kitschy, cool, like indie comic or something. I have tons of those, and I do love them, and I am drawn to the weird and that
Right.
maybe unconventional. But generally speaking, you get any book from Image, and I mean, Eric Stevenson, when we were coming to him with this idea, and we brought him Chris, he was like breathed kind of I could tell like a sigh of relief through email. He was like, okay, this will be a good looking book. So it's
Yeah.
important. There are standards, and readers have standards as well.
Mm. Yeah, the art
For
is
sure.
really beautiful. And it feels weird to say that when you're looking at like explosive diarrhea and like scrotal blood, but like it is true.
Hey, you make diarrhea look great, buddy.
Yeah.
His
I
panel
remember
of
I
a
was
guy
like,
of a guy nicking his balls shit while shaving is one of the most beautiful panels in comic book history, I think.
It's incredible, and we got his just his like countenance on the back of that issue as well. Just his look after Nick. I mean,
Yeah.
boy, man, you could really feel it. I could feel it in my body.
Yeah. It's visceral. Like it's yeah.
I drew a lot of wieners in that first issue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like obfuscated.
And Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Was that in the first one or the second one? He was so happy to see himself in that.
Oh, that's amazing. What a beautiful little right there. So I'd love if we could talk a little bit about the plot of Rifters. I think like something I was thinking while reading this is that like, Star Trek usually shows time travel as a banal thing that happens on a Thursday that you have to deal with before closing time. But like this rightly shows how time travel would absolutely break reality and would like let people with the worst impulses do the worst things. So can you talk a little bit about like, yeah, what the Rift unit does and what is this world that they sort of find themselves having to try to grapple with?
Well, I don't think it was like it was I'm sure it was a thought in both of our minds, Brian, about I mean, it's kind of like on the nose to say, the moment social media got to where it got to, the Pandora's box opened and there's no putting all the demons back
Yeah.
in the box, and now we just have to work around it. And so that was, I suppose, an intention with the idea of like giving time travel to the public, like, or
Yeah.
just giving it to the public, trying to be like, hey,
It's
here's the
totally
thing. It could,
similar
like,
to
it could
social
be
media and
yeah,
apps and all that. Yeah, for sure.
but like we pose it early on in that first issue as like it could be a betterment. But then like the moment it gets into the hands of like government, and you can see, I mean, like you can see how things are going now as
Right.
things sway and get into the wrong hands. Lots of Pandora's boxes open and things get
Yeah.
very bad. And so that's
It's
what
like we didn't go dumb
so,
enough.
right.
Right. But we wanted to have like what happens if time travel gets in the hands of a big dumb baby and he lets everybody have it and go nuts. And then eventually you're gonna have to pull back to heal all the time rifts that you've created out
Yeah.
of just letting there be a Nintendo version and all that. Like we had, because once we came up with that, we were like, oh man, if you made it legal, everybody would have their own. That was such a fun. I love an issue 1 of showing where Chris got to show how nuts I think we would go with it if time travel got legalized. It would be insane.
It'd be insane. And obviously
Probably nuttier than what we did. Yeah, but
if you don't suspend your disbelief enough, you're going to start to think of like all the problems with the idea of everyone having time travel.
well, yeah, right.
But I mean, I think you have to make sort of strict boundaries and rules for this to work in a story. And when you get eventually to the modern day within this book of the Rifters and how cops work, there are vice cops, there are homicide detectives, that's beat cops, all sorts, and they all have to manage this stuff. They're all relatively incapable of handling something that is like so powerful and so great. And so that's what we ran with. We ran with like 2 guys whose like hearts are in the right place, but like truly are incapable. And it's not sympathy to law enforcement or sympathy to like any, there's no leaning here to anything. It's just showing how human is to err. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, and they do their best, but they never do it right enough because they can't. Because Poe Buddy's nerfed.
Don't you have that tattooed, a chest piece?
I just got one recently. I'm not kidding. It's a little elf on my solar plexus. It says "No thanks." I have something pretty close.
Yeah, I love Geller and Fenton. They're great characters and they have a really great rapport. Like I really love like just the vibe between the two of them. I'd love if we could talk a little bit more about like the really messed up time travel scenarios you were referencing there. Um, did you seed all of those ideas in the script, and then Chris, you drew them? Were there some that you helped come up with like through your drawings? Because I loved in particular the dinosaurs, because I feel like none of us as a society have learned any lessons from Jurassic Park. Like we would
Oh
all go
no.
see the dinosaurs. So
Oh, everyone would want to take a selfie with a dinosaur. Why? Like, if you can get away with it, and by that I mean get away physically.
And
Chris, yeah, I mean,
we're all dads too. All would do a really dumb thing just to get a great photo for our kid. So
Yeah.
I would totally be the dad that stepped into the velociraptor cage accidentally or whatever. I'm that guy. Like, hey
yeah,
buddy, let's get a really good shot. And
you
then
have nothing to be afraid of. It's fine. Let's get up
got
there.
it. Yeah, just
But Chris,
The
I think
net would be way thicker if it was really dangerous. That's always the thought process.
right, Chris, I think we threw all those at you, right?
Yeah, I wasn't feeling that brave at that point. All of that was in the script, and I basically just like leaned on my strengths of like drawing monsters. So I was like, oh, okay, I could draw dinosaur people. That was probably the easiest page in the entire book because it was like, yeah, all that stuff was like super fun. And but the hard thing for me is to like rein that in because once you get wild, you can't cross a barrier and you have to know where that barrier is in your story. And and so I think it was issue 2, they kind of had to rein me in a little bit because they were like why is that happening? And I was like, I don't know.
But it wasn't, to be fair.
But it wasn't even like a negative note. It was like I'm sure if I had come up with a good reason, they would have been like, dope, let's go.
It was not a negative note. It was also a note to ourselves. It was a decision. Maybe I'm not going to take credit for it. I don't remember how that came about, but it was like, okay, now we have to get into like a relatively grounded place.
Yeah.
I was like, I actually don't know where we're gonna go. It's like too insane. And well, I mean, we had written a long treatment. So we had a place to go. It's not like we like came up with the first issue. I mean, Image wouldn't have let us do that.
no. It was the story was pretty beaten out.
It was beaten out, so we knew where we were going. And I mean, understandably, the inclination after that first issue would be like, let's go fucking buck wild. But yeah, we had to, I mean, because it becomes like any good story about these two characters. And so we had to kind of stay there. And while we had to make sure that time travel stuff was happening, it's kind of like what's the really good Andor, that series written by who's the guy that wrote Michael Clayton? He wrote Andor. But whatever. What's really good about that series compared to all the other Star Wars series, in my opinion, is it's a not only well written, but like it's about this guy. It's about this character, right? It's a character study, and the Star Wars stuff, all the aliens, all the fun things, they're there.
Right.
They're not driving the story. It's not like, it's not like a lightsaber is the story, which is like, unfortunately, it's what happened with like most of the Star Wars stuff recently. And so that's what matters.
Grounded.
Like,
Grounded's another way of putting it. I
it's
mean,
grounded. It's grounded, but it's like character driven, I guess.
right. But also
what I'm rambling
relatable, likable focus on these two guys, and something that feels sort of familiar. I think on purpose. We always wanted them to feel kind of like you've seen them on another. You want them to feel familiar. So they were based on Richard Belzer and Ice-T from SVU. So they're the background guys. So I was always like, what if you had those guys are the most interesting. They have the coolest dynamic. What if they were the main two instead of the pretty ones? So then we had the handsome, like Chris Maloney looking guy in the background, who's kind of a badass in our book. And then we based another character on I always said like Ming Na Wen if she was a lead in a one of those kind of shows.
Yeah, but that's the stuff we like the best, right? Like all of us, we like the thing. I remember growing up and watching Terminator 2, and I just wanted to be like John Connor. Like I wanted to be him. And I think like you have to see yourself in these people, otherwise you're not going to connect. You'll get bored, and you'll go find something that works.
100%. I think, yeah, because if you're going to get really out there in your satire and in your sort of like alternate reality type stuff, there has to be one person who acknowledges how bonkers everything is around them in order to sell it. Like everybody in frame
At
all the
least
time.
one. Yeah,
At
yeah.
least one.
Yeah.
Like the metaphor I always love is like my favorite movie of all time, Face Off. Like that movie needs Joan Allen to be like, what is going on? You know, like without like her, that movie rests on her shoulders, her very normal shoulders. Like
I remember
That's on the list of bullshit movies that I have for my wife to watch.
oh, I
Uh,
love that. I remember seeing that movie when it came out, fully accepted it for what it was, and then I told my oldest daughter, who's like she's 11, and she's starting to watch like, you know, stuff that I like to watch as well, and I explained the plot of Face Off, and she's like, she said this verbatim. She's like, "That's fucking stupid."
I think I might win. I went to the premiere with Margaret Cho.
oh,
Yeah, you definitely win.
Because she's like, hey, I know you love John Woo. I just did a really crazy fucking John Woo movie. Will you come with me to the premiere? And I went, absolutely. And I went to the premiere of that movie.
I love that.
hilarious.
Yeah.
I love that
I
movie.
got to meet John Woo. Yeah, that was my. It's a nutso bonkers movie, but
Yeah, so no, I love it though. But that's like of the era. That's of that time.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that story made me very happy because Margaret Cho was, in fact, the reason I saw that movie. I was so into her stand-up in the
Really,
90s.
that's
Yes.
amazing.
That's great.
She's in it for like 2 minutes.
I know. I'm that dedicated. Well, thank you for allowing me the face-off tangent because that's
Oh, nice.
pleasing.
Me.
We were
Talk about
we've known each other since San Francisco. So when we both had just moved down to LA when she did that, and she knew I was a total, Hong Kong movie nerd, but just action movie nerd in general, and well, nerd in general. But she knew I would enjoy that, and I did.
Oh, amazing. I'm so glad you had that experience. That is incredible. Yeah, meeting John Woo, I can't imagine. Let's get back to your work. John Woo is incredible, but we could talk about your comic more if you like.
hard to go back. It's hard to. I feel like it's like going to first class, and now we got to go back to economy.
So I'm really interested in when you are writing a comic, how do you balance the arc of each issue with the larger arc of like the six issues together, like in a volume? Because every issue needs its own like conclusion or cliffhanger, as it were. So how do you balance like the questions that you answer in one versus like what you sort of leave hanging, if that makes sense?
It's an interesting one. I think it's important you set up a larger story, right?
Yeah.
And everybody, we're gonna need to figure out like twists and turns and like obviously how it ends, how it buttons up. But along the way, and we knew these characters, but as you write them, you get to know them better. And that's a nice thing about, I mean, writing in general, but like
we knew where it was going, but it tightened up along the way as we were working on
we
it.
we gave them more. I think like one thing that I pushed really hard for is I was like, we came in just funny in action and funny and weird in action. I was like, this needs more heart. Like we need more heart, and we need moments where like things get very hard and the characters don't feel so good and they tap into some pretty traumatic memories. And if you balance that, I think you get a nice little nice dish, so to speak.
Right.
And I think that's something that became more of a focus as we continued on, because I know, and we all feel this way, but I'll only speak for myself. I was concerned that if we didn't, it would begin to feel flat. It would just be like the same thing over and over again for 6 issues, and it's like, well, no one's gonna want that.
Well, for me, it also had to feel not so much cinematic, but it had to feel at least have structure. It at least have second and third act, because we were looking at the first 6 issues as a story always, and hoped, that we would keep going and do more, and hopefully, if this does well, we will do another take on these guys, or another full story. But that was always, we knew it had to have a ending, at least wrap up the mystery, and for our guys to have some sort of arc, some lesson learned, or some relationship point made by getting through this together. We needed that, and then it was like I said, tightening it up and kind of finding a better way to tell it. I feel like we had a take earlier that we kind of threw away and went and made it more fun.
Yeah, it's not the first time you and I have done that, or I've done that with other people, where you have the whole thing mapped out, but the moment you start digging into it, you're like, well, this isn't working anymore, and this isn't hitting at the right spot, story structure wise. And so, but I wasn't worried. Neither of us were worried about finding that. And then, we only got a 6-issue order, so even though we knew we wanted to continue on, we had to find a way to sort of like button it up at the end, but also leave it open enough to continue on, which is, I feel like we did. I think we did an all right job with that.
And even more, make you want to see more, holy shit, where do these guys go from this?
It make it absurd enough to want to see more, interesting enough, and also, again, back to character.
Yeah.
Making you want to like read more about these characters. I think a lot about is that book Saga? It's been going on forever. And I still read it. Less because it's weird, even though the art's beautiful and it's strange. More because I really want to know what's going on with these characters. I'm very curious about what's happening in their lives. That's the only thing that keeps me going. I mean, weird and wacky and stuff can keep my attention for about 5 minutes, and maybe it's because of technology. I don't know.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And the end does do a great job of, wrapping up the story, yet leaving you wanting to see more of these characters, what they're going to do. It functions almost like a pilot, for the series that would follow. Yeah, thank you so much for coming and talking about this book. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I am so excited for people to read it. So you've said that this is the first 6 issues and that there might be more. Do you already have those ideas percolating, or are you and you could talk about what else you have coming up next. What are y'all up to?
Brian, you want to
Yeah,
tell us
well,
wonderful life?
we definitely have we if we got the go ahead to do more, it would just take a couple hours of kind of figuring out. We have ideas, and we've talked about where this would go as an ongoing, or just as another 6 issues. So that would be a fun thing that, if it does well enough, and Image goes, hey, people want to see more of this. Yes. And let's do it. Yeah. But for me, I've got grommets also coming out through in trade paper form. I'm going to have a pretty strong presence at conventions this spring and summer, as more probably than any year I've ever done it, kind of intentionally, because I know I'll have both these books out in the summer, and be able to sit at a table and sign them for you. So come to different places where you see my name. And then I got a TV thing that is a big job for me. So that finally is coming real. It's a Chuck Lorre spinoff thing. So I will be employed gainfully very soon. So, but I'm going to continue to write comics with Joe and whoever else, because I love writing comics.
That's great.
Joe
wrote a book with Rick Remender and Andy Samberg.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can pick that heavy name back up off the ground. For Image, called The Holy Roller. That comes out trade soon. This book, Rifters, comes out. That's why we're here. The trade paperback very soon. And I'm going to pull up my phone.
What's the actual date? Yeah.
Well, I don't have that in front of me.
Something, right?
But I do think, let me
This
see.
is the most revealing moment of Team Rifters ever right here.
We have a signing. So I think the book comes out the 23rd, I believe.
Yeah.
And we have a sign. So April 23rd. Sorry.
Yeah.
of this year.
Very
And then
soon.
we are doing a signing at Revenge of in the Eagle Rock area of Los Angeles on the 26th, April 26th, so 3 days later, which is will be really fun. It's a great shop and wonderful people. I don't really need to plug Fall Out Boy. We're playing festivals. People will be there. Not to sound cocky. Not.
Do you think you're selling tickets this year?
We might. Yeah, we're up to 5.
Yeah.
But we're only doing festivals, no record, and that's not like a obfuscation of some hidden nefarious album.
How many tickets do you have to sell by hand so that you don't get charged?
I get to give out 35 free tickets.
A lot of bringer shows. Fall Out Boy does a lot of bringer shows.
We used to have to give out free tickets for the Metro in Chicago.
Can you imagine?
No.
That's so crazy.
And then I'm making I'm not gonna say who with, but I'm like making a really cool weird album with the buddy from an old hardcore band and another pal from another really cool kind of like grungy D-beat band, and so we're working on it. Maybe it comes out, maybe it never does. That's what I'm recording right now. Well, not literally now, but I was recording before this, and I'll be recording it more when I get off this wonderful podcast. And then I've been shooting film photography. That's how you say the word, for a long time. And I'm in the middle of putting together. I'm going to self-publish a really cool hardcover of that for folks. And I'm kind of letting the cat out of the bag early on that. And I'm going to donate all the money to victims of the Eaton fire.
Very cool.
So I just wanted to put a cool book out. It'll have some Fall Out Boy photos, but mostly other weird stuff that I've found while walking around. And then I'm gonna probably pick up my kids from school later. That's what I'll do.
Nice.
I'm doing that too. Not his kids. I'm picking up my own kid.
You can pick up mine too.
It's too far away.
Go straight into Hollywood. It'll be great.
I'm working on something. I wasn't for a couple months. I took a break and
to have a baby and be a dad.
Yeah, I watched my wife have a kid.
That's exactly what it is, by the way. You watch them do it. You hold their leg up, maybe. That's about it.
It was intense. And so, I'm finally working again. I'm actually moving this week. So this is my empty office. But I'm doing something, and it's I'm really excited about it. I don't want to say a whole lot about it, but it's 100% me, which I haven't done before. So I'm pretty pumped about
that's
that.
awesome.
And but I had a couple other things lined up, and then they fell apart because of something called tariffs. So I'm not going to be political. I'm just going to make my own stuff, and it's pretty cool so far.
Nice. Well, thank you so much again, and good luck on all of these amazing projects. It's just been such an honor to talk to all of you, and I really appreciate you making the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Good to see you guys.
All right, it's now time to close this chapter. Go check out Rifters. We'll see you.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.